Everyone wants to know how long it will take them to get lean, and depending on who you ask, you'll get a different answer. 12 weeks, 16 weeks, even as long as a year. But none of these timelines mean anything because there's a massive difference between what works in theory versus what happens in reality. So let's break this down properly in a way that makes sense. Let's start clean and simple with the mathematic theory. The most accurate way to look at this is, in an ideal world, you'll look to lose 1% of body weight a week. This is usually the range at which people can maximize fat loss without putting themselves at risk of muscle loss. Meaning, if you're 200 pounds, you're looking at 2 pounds per week. So if you need to lose 20 pounds, that's 10 weeks of dialed in dieting. But that's if execution is perfect, meaning calories are nailed on a daily basis, steps are hit consistently, training is of superb quality, and we don't deviate from the plan at all. But let's transition to reality. We aren't robots, and that means we have to account for a few factors. And usually, this is driven by the fact that fat loss isn't linear. At the start, you'll probably drop a ton of weight fast, and you'll see the most dramatic change. Then things slow down, and real life starts interfering. Perhaps you have a weekend away, a couple of social events, and the odd off-plan meal. And then that's when the theory starts to quietly lose relevance. The perfect meal plan starts to slip away, and that's not at the fault of the person, but just human nature, which is pretty hard to rule out. So in reality, we need to add a buffer. For most people, 20 pounds of fat loss could be 10 weeks on paper, but in reality, we should actually plan for 12 to 15 weeks. Not because fat loss isn't predictable, but because human nature isn't. So that's the realistic range you should shoot for. Now, it's also worth mentioning that this is for a short, aggressive diet phase. If you have 40 to 50 pounds to lose, it's likely that you'll want to do this in a couple of blocks. The reason being that losing that amount of weight relatively quickly will have an impact on hunger, adherence, and training quality. So typically, you wouldn't want to do this in one push. So in this instance, you're looking at losing perhaps an initial 20 to 25 pounds, then take a diet break, which could be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, with the aim to restore a normal appetite, drop off some fatigue, and bring training to a decent level again. So in this case, you'd be looking at a longer time frame, perhaps 6 to 8 months, accounting for the diet break and a couple of slip-ups along the way. And so the biggest mistake people make is they assume they can be a robot and stick to the plan perfectly, but the reality is, even the guys with the strongest discipline in the world will have moments where they crave food more, want to binge, and inevitably lose a little bit of structure. So your best plan of action will be to factor this into your timeline. Additionally, once you've reached the desired level of body fat, you'll probably need to run a brief health phase. Most people, as soon as they finish their diet and have achieved the goal they set out in the first place, struggle massively not to regain the fat they've just lost. Their hunger hormones are all over the place, and the body is in a prime position to regain fat quickly. So you will want to include a health phase, which is usually 3 to 4 weeks of bringing calories back up to maintenance, holding weight steady, and ensuring that your body is in a good environment to stay lean and build muscle. So how long does it actually take? Well, 10 weeks if you're perfect, 12 to 15 weeks if you're realistic. Plus, if you want to do things properly, an additional 3 weeks at the end to ensure you keep the progress you've made and don't end up in a continuous yo-yo diet like most people do. If you want to do this properly, you can apply for my one-to-one coaching cohort using the link in the description. And if you're not quite ready to commit just yet, I've also linked my free 8-day course that will run through exactly how I set up training, diet, and nutrition for my one-to-one coaching clients. Hope you found this video useful. If you did, drop it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.